We are coming up on the 11-year anniversary of The Sims 4's release. Let that sink in for a moment. 11 years. This game has been out for more than a decade, and I know some of you out there listening to this right now have been playing it since it released, myself included. And it's crazy how long ago that was. If you were an adult when it originally came out, you could very well have a kid of your own who was old enough to be asking for their own copy of the game to play. In 5 more years, this game could legally get its driver's license in the United States. Like, that is insane. Especially considering previous iterations of The Sims tapped out around 6 or 7 years maybe. So needless to say, The Sims 4 has been out for a very long time. And there's plenty of ways that Simmers have been really making the best of it and finding ways to still enjoy a game despite the fact that it's been out for so long. And despite the fact that, at times the content does feel a little more shallow compared to past iterations of the game like Sims 3 or Sims 2 even. And I think it's sparked a lot of really creative solutions. Some of them are challenges or adding really realistic gameplay styles. Like the other day I was watching someone who's creating a true economy in their save file, which is awesome. And I love all that creativity. But my personal favorite way to really zhuzh up the game and feel connected to it and I want to come back and play it is actually by creating save files. And if you're not new here, I'm sure that comes as no surprise. I'm currently working on a Pleasant View 5 years in the past save file that is modded. And I've also recently shared that I'm working on a personal gameplay save set in the medieval era, kind of based off of old school Royal Kingdom challenges from Sims 2 days. So I love a custom save. I love seeing what other people make. I love watching tours of them. I love seeing the backstories people come up with their characters. And a slightly newer trend in save files, because let me tell you, they've been around for a very long time, is totally redecorating your world with the T.O.O.L mod. This is something I'm doing with my medieval save, kind of dipping my toes into the water. And I've been having a blast with it. Honestly, it has made me feel so much more connected to that save file. I feel so much more invested. And even though I'm not playing the game necessarily in live mode, I find myself actually looking forward to logging onto the game and just adding to my world, adding bushes and trees and building my little fake castle walls. And it's just a lot of fun. And I know that I myself was really, really intimidated by the idea of building a save file from scratch because it seems kind of overwhelming. And then I did it for myself and I realized it was not that bad. And I realized I really enjoyed it. And I was like, oh my God, this is peak creativity in The Sims to me. It's the closest we can get to a create a world tool and just expressing your creativity with builds, or whether you're a builder or you're grabbing them from the gallery, and then creating your own Sims to fill the world and adding stories. That to me is what this game is all about. So I thought I would give you guys a little overview of how you can create your own custom save file. So I thought I would walk you guys through the process of how to get started with creating your own custom save file and sort of walk you through the journey I'm going through creating one that is a more modern one. No medieval theme here. And one that I hope to share with you guys one day. And the theme is actually inspired by the recent patch that came out with the Enchanted by Nature pack, which actually gave us the ability to create glass walls, which doesn't sound that crazy until you realize that means that you can create glass wall texture on roofs, which is awesome. That's something we've never been able to do in this game, and being able to do that unlocks so much build potential. And I personally love to build. I'm not the most talented by far. I'm not the most skilled at using the T.O.O.L mod, but I love to build. And so that update has been right up my alley and has really inspired me because it is the perfect aesthetic detail for creating mid-century modern builds, or even just super modern stuff, contemporary modern. So I had the brilliant idea of creating another save file, as if I don't have enough on my plate already. And this one specifically is going to be inspired by Palm Springs, California. Think pastels, think pools everywhere, think symmetry, bright colors, pattern, almost like an accidental Wes Anderson vibe, if anyone remembers that trend from a few years ago. And I think the aesthetic is going to be really fun, and I'm excited to take you guys along for the ride to kind of give you some tips to create your own save file. And with all that said, I think I'm going to go ahead and cut this intro so we can get right into it, because I plan to walk you guys through everything you need to know, from how to even get started to what mods you need, some tips on how to not feel so overwhelmed, and as well as little details you can add to your save file to make it feel really exciting and interesting and something you feel invested in, even if you never plan to share it, just for your own personal gameplay. Because honestly, if there's anything I've learned from working on my medieval save, it's that so far nothing in this game has felt as fulfilling to me as creating my own save file and building out my own world that is completely mine. So I'm going to quit yapping and we're going to jump into game. Did I say we were going to jump into the game? Yeah, I lied. First, we're going to go over what I recommend to start with if you would like to create your own custom save file. In my opinion, the best way to start is with a completely blank save. That way, you don't have to worry about Sims clogging up your world or builds clogging up your world, because if you don't know by now, that is actually a contributing factor to what can sometimes cause a save to corrupt and break. Having too much stuff. Because again, this game's been out for over a decade. We got to be a little gentle with it sometimes. So I definitely recommend starting from a blank slate. And seriously, blank save is always my go-to. They are fantastic about keeping it updated with the new worlds as they release. So you just download this, and when you extract the file, it'll be a save file, and you drop it into your saves folder in your Sims 4 folder, the same place where you normally find your mods folder, except click the file that says saves and drop it in there. This will bulldoze everything. It will get rid of all the townies. You are literally starting from nothing, which is great for our purposes. The next mod I recommend is a little more advanced. However, I do think that it is very worth it. And it's not as scary as it might look. I was incredibly intimidated watching people decorate blank save files on YouTube, and then I did it for myself, and I will admit it was a little challenging to get the hang of it, but then once you do, it's very, very, very fun, and it just really is a great way to unleash your creativity. So that would be none other than the blowtorch mod. It literally deletes everything except for the essential world textures, like certain trees, certain rocks, but most stuff gets deleted. And it's kind of crazy when you first load into the world and you're like, I couldn't tell you what world this is. I genuinely couldn't, because I can't recognize it without all the set dressing and all the builds. And if you download this, just make sure you save a backup for reverting your game back, because let me tell you how this mod works. Because again, I was very intimidated by this. But basically, if you've ever used like the Sunblind mod or another mod that alters the lighting textures in The Sims 4, you're going to install Blowtorch in the exact same place. And if you've ever installed Sunblind before or something like that, then you know that each folder is separated out by the pack. So let's say you would like to delete all the items in Willow Creek, but you don't want to touch Newcrest. You could only install them for the Willow Creek world, if that makes sense. So that way, it gives you a little more control over what worlds you want to totally bulldoze or not. And the good news is if you save those files, and I believe the Blowtorch package file when you download it comes with a already made set of backups, all you have to do is swap those folders back out and you will get all the items back in whatever world you chose to bring them back in. Or if you want to totally uninstall Blowtorch, just move all the files back and your game will be back to normal. So it's really not as intimidating as it sounds. And when we go in game, I'll show you what this looks like and I'll show you why you don't have to be scared of it. The next mod I highly recommend you having, really for anyone, because it's just useful and it's a great way to add fun items into your world no matter what, even if you're not building your own save file, is the T.O.O.L mod, which stands for Take Objects Off Lot by Twisted Mexi. This is another one that can seem intimidating at first if you don't know how to use it. And like, I'll be so real with you guys. I only like 40% know how to use it, but I know enough to make a save file. And I'll show you guys how to do that in a way that you don't need like crazy math. You don't have to be working with grids. It can be very, very easy and not intimidating. So this mod must have, just a great mod. It allows you to decorate the world in places that you normally can't build. Another must-have mod, in my opinion, whether or not you're building a save file, is the Better Build Buy. But you're definitely going to want this if you plan to decorate your world custom, because this allows you to sort objects, and you can sort debug and live edit without typing in the cheats, and you can hide them without having to, normally if you typed it in with a cheat, you would have to close out of your game and reopen to hide those items, which is a pain in the butt, because if you've ever used the debug menu before, you know there's a lot of stuff in there that clogs everything else up. Another feature I really love from Better Build Buy is the ability to expand the build UI. So as you're scrolling, you get more rows to scroll through and you can see more items at once. And you can also choose to hide custom content, which is perfect for me because I plan to work on this next save file with totally in-game stuff. So that way it's really easy to share. And if you would like to do the same thing, then you can just click off custom content. And on the flip side, you can click off to hide Max's items. So if you only want to decorate your world with CC, if you have a very specific aesthetic in mind, you can do that too. So just a fantastic mod, and it makes the build catalog a lot more accessible. And the final mod that you definitely are going to need if you plan to truly customize your world is the, what is it called? Expanded clickable area? I don't know. But, clickable worlds mod. That's what it is. But what this mod is it lets you click anywhere in the world. And places that you normally couldn't click because your sim can't route to them, you can now select, which once we get in game and I can show you how to use the tool mod, you'll understand why that is so crucial. However, very important detail here, since it makes the world clickable, you also need to take it out when you're done editing the world, because your sim will route like a crazy person because they can go anywhere in the world with this mod on. You can see it in this video preview. However, if you take it out, it won't change your world decoration. So you can just remove it when you're ready to start your gameplay and everything will be perfect. These are the mods that I recommend. This is how I recommend you start with your custom save file journey. You want a blank save to start with. You want the tool mod so you can decorate the world. You want Better Build Buy just to make your life easier. And if you're feeling really adventurous, you want Blowtorch. The next part of creating your own custom save is gathering the inspiration. And even like, let's back up a step. I already told you guys I wanted to build this save to be like a Palm Springs inspired mid-century modern vibe, but let's talk about that. Let's talk about choosing a theme, because that is the best way to start, in my opinion, and actually stick with it and actually bring things to life in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming. Because let me tell you, the first time you log into your game, and let's say you download a Blowtorch, you download a tool and Better Build Buy and the blank save file, and like you are so ready to commit to this, you're going to open that world and you're just going to stare at it for a little bit. And you're going to go back to the lot selection menu and you're going to jump into another lot to see if you feel a little bit better, and you're still going to feel overwhelmed and you're not even going to know where to start. And I'm speaking from personal experience. So learn from my mistakes, make your life easy by deciding on a theme, deciding on a core idea. Like my Pleasant View save file, I wanted to make Pleasant View. That one was pretty simple. My medieval save file, I knew I wanted to make a medieval kingdom, and so I was thinking about how I needed a castle, and I needed peasant homes, I needed farmland, and I needed merchant homes. And now with this save, I decided I wanted to do a mid-century modern Palm Springs, California inspired aesthetic. Another really popular aesthetic that I see all the time is like little PNW towns, or like mountain towns, cozy small towns. That is a very popular one that I see all the time. It's another great theme. I personally recommend picking themes that kind of already align with a certain world that you feel already fits that aesthetic, because that'll just make your life easier in terms of matching your own vision. And another benefit to having a theme is it kind of gives you a starting point. So when I think Palm Springs, I think pool bars and like retro aesthetics. And like this photo that I saved here looks like a converted gas station. It'll give you ideas of what builds to include. If you're building a cozy, woodsy small town, maybe you want to build a diner, a really cozy diner, or maybe you want to build a small town sheriff station. And having a theme will also help guide what sort of gameplay you envision doing in your save file, because that will also influence your save, because that is what really keeps you invested when you have a story propelling everything along. And so for a Palm Springs save, it's going to be kind of fancy. There's going to be rental units. There's going to be like influencer sims everywhere and celebrities. And it's going to be a little bit more vacation vibe spot, not necessarily a suburban family-oriented neighborhood. And the best thing to do once you have your theme figured out is to take to Pinterest, which is why we're just chilling right here on my board as I yap at you, because I wanted to show you how I took on this part of the process. I like to start by just searching, like I think I started searching Palm Springs aesthetic, Palm Springs, California. And I highly recommend you do that with whatever theme you have. Maybe you're doing a Oregon-inspired small town. Type that into Pinterest, see what comes up. And as I start getting some images and I start seeing things that inspire me, then I'll start to search other things like Palm Springs restaurants or Palm Springs homes. I also personally really like to save images that kind of resonate with items that I know we have in game. So for example, like this image really spoke to me because we actually have a wallpaper that looks really similar to this in The Sims 4. It came with a base game update like forever ago. And so I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to save that because that is something that I can more easily recreate. I also tried to save a variety of different building styles and different kind of viewpoints. So I tried to save homes and entrances and interiors and public, like commercial lots. And there's this one photo that I saved of like a woman at like what looks like a photo op. So trying to think about those little details that make things kind of feel real and feel detailed and feel intentional. And so those are kind of my favorite things to look out for as I'm creating my inspiration boards. How can it translate to an in-game build? How does it translate to items we hopefully already have in the game and would make my life easier? And also paying attention to colors and also paying attention to the little details that bring it all together. And one more thing that the Pinterest board will help you with is figuring out what you want your first build to be, or your first piece of the world you want to decorate. So for me, I think I'm going to start with kind of the town area because I love images like this. Obviously, this is not Palm Springs necessarily, but the vibe of palm trees lining a busy street, I think, is very classic California, no matter where you're at in Southern California. And so I thought that would be a really fun vibe to bring into Oasis Springs for my little Palm Springs save file. So once you have your world picked out of what you're going to redo first, you have your theme picked out of what it's going to be like, you have your inspiration board made on Pinterest, you know kind of where you want to start with it, and you have all of your mods downloaded. Now it's finally time to go back in game. On a scale of 1 to me, the first time I opened my world after using Blowtorch, how intimidated are you right now? It's pretty crazy seeing the base game worlds pretty empty like this. Obviously, there's still quite a bit of like foliage around, especially in Oasis Springs, because Blowtorch doesn't get rid of everything. However, if you want to get rid of everything, I do believe there's additional mods out there to like really strip things away. But I did want to keep the heart and soul of Oasis Springs, so I kept it as is. But it's kind of crazy looking at it, so nothing. Like there's just nothing. But that is the fun part. That is why we are here. So the first thing I want you to do when you're making a save file is pick where you're going to start. I wanted to start with the main commercial area of Oasis Springs because for me, usually it is the commercial builds that kind of give me that first spark of inspiration for a save file. And just kind of looking around this area, I'm thinking about what else I can do. So we do have a cupcake stall right here with an empty area. I'm thinking this would be a great place to add some seating and maybe some outdoor activities, maybe something for kids. Or this could even be, and see, this is where the lore in the world building comes into play with creating your save file, because I just had an idea. What if this is some like super popular Palm Springs cupcake shop or Oasis Springs? And it's a little bit of like a influencer spot. So maybe there's a photo op wall over here. That's an idea. We can play with that. And I also have this big area, which has sidewalks and also empty dirt. So the empty dirt could be foliage, like garden beds, or it could be playground equipment for kids. This could, of course, be more seating, or even like what would you expect to find in like a bougie LA suburb? Maybe like an outdoor gym or something like that. Maybe, what else could it be? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see as we go, because that's another thing. As I'm going through the catalog, I like to just pull things that feel like the right vibe, and then we'll find homes for them if we see fit. So with that being said, let's go ahead and walk through exactly how to use the tool mod for this. Okay, I did that thing where I lied again, because before I show you how to use the tool mod, I want to show you why I need you to have Better Build By and the Clickable Worlds mod. So Better Build By is going to be your best friend because of this. Those two. And look, you can just click in here and here's all the live edit objects. And if you want them gone, they're gone. You just take off the filter. It's amazing. And another pro tip for the Better Build By mod is if you press the little tilde key, which is the one to the left of the 1/exclamation point, it expands the catalog, which is a lifesaver for digging through all of this stuff. For our purposes, we're going to start with this palm tree. So to open the tool mod in build mode, you are going to click Shift T, and you're going to have this little screen and you can drag it around, which is awesome. And the easiest way to use tool, and the way that I became comfortable with it, is just by clicking. It's that easy. You select the item and it turns green, and now you can click anywhere and it will go wherever you want. And this is the reason why I wanted you guys to get the Click Anywhere mod, because I can put it all the way out there. I can put it like over there. I can put it weird places that you normally would not be able to click, which is very important for this. And if you would like to just adjust something a little bit, like let's say you're like, I want this tree specifically right in this little crevice, you can hold down the Alt key and click around. And the closer you are to the object as you're clicking, the less it'll move, versus if I'm holding Alt but I click all the way over here, it's going to move a pretty big jump. But if I hold it and I click right here, it's just going to inch. So we can inch it in exactly where we want. And you click it again to deselect it. And look at that, we placed our first tree. Another useful part of the tool mod for decorating your worlds is going to be the elevate feature. Let's say you wanted to add on to this little mountain, which let me use the Alt key to place it, get it right where I want, but you don't want it to stick up that high. You want to blend in a little bit more. Okay, you go to elevate, and if you want to move down, you put a negative sign in front. And as far as the numbers go, I usually will start with 1 and see how much it impacts it. Wasn't very much. And then I'll kind of go from there. And if you ever do something that you don't like let's say we do -10 and we're like, oh my God, it's way too small, go to options and go to undo. Okay, so let's do -5. Let's try that. And maybe let's bring it forward now. Perfect. Looks silly because it's not the right color. And that was just for an example, but just to show you how to use the elevate mod. The next thing the tool mod can do is something that I actually am not great at using yet, and it's the rotate. And I'll just kind of show you guys what it looks like. But you can rotate and you can just barely see the circle of the axis. So right now it's flat and it's horizontal. So if you rotate it 45 degrees, it rotates. This is like, this axis is like if you alt rotate, if that makes sense. Like normally you place an item and you hold alt and you have free 360 rotation. That is what that axis does. But as you change them, now you can see this one's like vertical. So it would rotate it vertically, if you can picture that, and so on and so forth. Like I said, this is a tool that I'm still getting used to, so I don't use it all that much personally. However, scale is my favorite. I love this mod. You might be familiar with the fact that we can actually size up and size down objects with the brackets key, but sometimes it's just like way too big. Then you would select it with tool, scale. 1 is keeping it the same size. It's just a scaling it by a factor of 1, which is the same thing. And so 1.5 would be 1.5 times bigger. So if you want it just a little bit bigger, but not quite as big as what the bracket key does, let's try 1.25. So that way it's just a little bit bigger. This is the original size. This is the bracket size if you just click the bracket once. And this is the 1.25 size. So those are the basics of the tool mod. And now I want to show you a little bit more advanced techniques. And when I say advanced, I don't actually mean they're hard or advanced. I just mean it took me like 6 YouTube videos till I finally figured out how to do it. And it was like oh sort of moment. So I'm going to make it easy for you guys. Let's say you place this palm tree. I did just now place this palm tree. You watched it happen. And let's say you want to place it again, but you don't want to go digging through the catalog. Okay. Select the item, and when it's green on your keyboard, hold down Alt and Shift, and then just click somewhere, and it will replicate it. So maybe I wanted to put another one in here. Now it's replicated in there. Maybe I want to put another one here. Now it's replicated in there. And if you want to select multiple items to adjust at the same time, like I decided I don't want these 2 palm trees in here after all, hold down Alt and click the item. And for me, I'm going to delete group, but you could also click somewhere else and they will move together. Now, let's say you wanted to add some custom landscaping to your world, and clicking around with tool when you're doing a bunch of items and trying to make something really specifically styled can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. So the much easier way is to actually just build out whatever you want on your home lot. And then you're going to create a grouping box. And this took me a long time to figure out because I believe the method of creating a grouping box actually changed. It used to be simpler and now it's different. And it took me a lot of trial and error to figure that out because all the documentation I was reading was outdated. So let me spare you the struggle. Let's say we want to move all these items back here, and instead of doing it one by one, we're going to do them all together. So you're in live mode, and we're going to shift click the ground, tool options, set grouping box. You're going to get a little line. And we're going to do exactly what it sounds like we're going to do. We're going to create a box to create a group. So draw a line somewhere out here. Make sure the stuff inside of your box is only going to have what you want to be moved. And set grouping box again. And we're going to do that for all 4 corners. And then here's the important part. Come back to the starting point. Do it again. And when you have a green outline, that's when you know you're good. Then you're going to hop into build mode and open up tool, options, toggle group, and everything in there will be green. And now we can move it as a group. And if you hold down Shift and Alt, you can duplicate it. And then when you're done with that and you don't need this green box anymore, you go to options and hide grouping box. Now that we went over all the basics, I'm going to go ahead and speed up this next footage while I get into the zone and start showing you guys my process of how I decorate the world. you've made it this far and you're still watching, I promise there is a method to this madness. And that method is to follow your vision. It is to reference your Pinterest board and to let inspiration come to you as you see an item and you're like, that's really cool. It's to look for inspiration on the gallery where other creative simmers have already created really awesome things that can inspire your own creations in your world. And most importantly, it's about considering your gameplay style and what you want your Sims to be able to do in your worlds. If you never use grills, don't feel the need to put them everywhere. If you never use picnic tables, don't feel the need to put them everywhere. But if your Sims love to paint and do chess, put those in various spaces where you can actually use them and they feel like they're a part of the bigger community you're creating. And most importantly, I think my biggest tip is just be patient and just kind of enjoy the ride with it. Be creative. Treat this like it's an art project. You are literally building a world from the ground up. And as you're doing that, you're coming up with stories, you're coming up with fun things to place in your world that might contribute to the lore. You'll see in a minute, unless I cut that part of the footage out, that I put some sales tables and the art sale wall in the little community area I was building. And in my mind, I was thinking, oh, maybe on weekends, there's like markets here and people come and use these sales tables. Just be creative. Consider the game that you want to play and find a way to make it happen. And I hope you guys enjoyed this today. I hope it doesn't overwhelm you. I hope I made the T.O.O.L mod feel a little bit more accessible and not so intimidating. And I truly believe that if you are interested in creating your own save file, you can do it. Just be patient, take your time with it, gather all the inspiration you can, and just have fun. I know it sounds so lame and cheesy and it's such a cliche, but really just have fun with it. Because if you ever decide, oh, that looks bad, you can just delete it and try again. And also don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Just a second ago, I was placing deco like skyscrapers in the background. And on one hand, I was like, well, they look kind of silly because they're just in the ground. But on the other hand, whenever I went to the sim level, like the camera level at which you normally play the game, you couldn't notice. They just looked like distant buildings. So is it perfect? No. But in my opinion, for what I was going for, it was good enough. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little tutorial. I will definitely update you as I work on this save file, but like all my projects go, I tend to take on really big projects and work on them slowly over time and bounce between them as I feel inspired to. So I'll definitely do that with this one as well, so don't hold your breath waiting for anything. But if you enjoyed this video, I would super appreciate any comments, likes, subscribes if you would like to hang around for more. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and cut this off here, let you guys watch the rest of this footage. And I do have a little overview film piece at the very end to kind of show off what I did here. But I'll go ahead and quit yapping. Thank you guys so much for watching. And with that, I'll see y'all next time. Bye, y'all.